at the University of Toronto today, there are dozens of protests happening across the world to mark the one-year anniversary of the genocide in Gaza. As you can see, students here are slowly gathering. They will be marching along with dozens of other groups to Dundas Square in Toronto. Stay with us all day. We're going to be bringing you live what's going on the streets. What is it that has stayed with you the most during this year?
That people don't care about the horrors that are happening in Gaza, about the pain of Palestinian students at the University of Toronto, but also in Palestine.
Sense of disappointment that my university has constantly have been constantly dismissive of our demands, have been dismissive of how we feel, and won't even acknowledge the fact that anti-Palestinian racism is on the rise on their campus. It already existed beforehand with the incredible amounts of anti-Palestinian racism from before, but now people think it's okay to be openly against Palestine and Palestinians on campus.
You're heading over to Dundas Square, where dozens of other organizations are joining to mark the one-year anniversary of the genocide in Gaza. I just have one question for you. Over the past year, what has stayed with you the most?
Just deep sorrow and sadness for the loss of life. The message that every life is a universe, and there's so many lives lost in Gaza, and it's so unnecessary.
I'm here in Toronto's Dundas Square. As you can see, people are slowly gathering here behind me. Dozens of various organizations are here to mark the one-year anniversary of the genocide in Gaza. People will be marching slowly through the streets. Stay with us. I've been checking in with you for months now. Today marks the anniversary of the genocide in Gaza. There are dozens of organizations here. I've been asking people here one question.
Okay.
What has stayed with you the most throughout this year?
The bodies on the screens, the lifeless bodies of babies and parents holding them, the kids holding their parents in 30-kilogram bags of like leftovers. Just the fact that there's every day when you think there's a bottom, you realize you haven't reached it yet. And so I think it's the not knowing where the bottom is, and just it's so soul sickening.
The deliberate targeting of healthcare infrastructure in Gaza, even in the West Bank, even in Beirut, has been astounding to me, and the silence of healthcare administration in Canada, as well as a lot of my coworkers, unfortunately. The bravery and the commitment of pro-Palestine activists in fighting against the genocide, and their unwavering dedication and seeing the community rally to support each other.
Just the perseverance and the humanity and the love of the Palestinians. So I've met so many Palestinians here in Toronto, and when I talk about any kind of social justice issue, they just have love. They're just such a great people, a great community.
There's so many things, but I think in crowds like this, I am reminded that there really are more of us than there are of them, that there are really more people who want peace and justice, a free Palestine. And we don't see that reflected back to us in our mainstream media. We don't see that reflected back to us in other ways. But when we are at an event like this, it's a reminder that all of us together, banding together, continuing to fight for peace and justice, together we'll win.
The biggest thing for me is constantly thinking about my role as a mother,
my connection to the mothers there, but also my duty to make sure that my children know what's happening. And so for the next generation, this is not something we're going to recreate.
What good people are willing to risk to do the right thing.
I mean, on the one hand, it is the solidarity that we are seeing today, and we've seen every single weekend, different events, different actions, people coming together from all different movements. That has very much stayed with me. On the flip side is the extent of the dehumanization of Palestinians, Lebanese, our allies, the anti-Palestinian racism, extreme forms of anti-Palestinian racism that we have seen, and the fact that our elected officials or government institutions have demonized us for speaking up against genocide. So between those two things, this is what's has stuck with me over the past year.
I'm here on Yonge Street. This is the longest street in the world. There are tens of thousands of people here marching to commemorate the 1-year anniversary of the genocide starting in Gaza. You can see here, I cannot see the end or beginning of this line.
United will never be defeated.
We've spoken to a number of people today who've told us many different things for why they're here and what has stayed with them the most. One of it is solidarity. It is solidarity that is providing a lot of solace here for people today.